I'm very excited right now. Joining us now is one of the candidates, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Congresswoman, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking time out today. I know it is crunch time for you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. I'm running around to different St. Patrick events.
Okay.
I know. All right.
Being with us.
All right. Hydrate. That's all I got to say. Hydrate.
I am with water.
Congresswoman, I just want to start our conversation with what I ask every candidate who is running for office. Why run?
Why run? Because, I've been in Congress 13 years.
Yep.
I absolutely love my job. I absolutely love serving the people. I had the privilege of serving the 2nd District, and now I want to do what I've done in the 2nd for the entire state. I was the party chair. I worked for the treasurer. I was his chief, so I've served the state, but I want to do more for more people because we all do better when we all do better.
Our audience is largely LGBTQ Chicagoans. What kind of issues are affecting LGBTQ people that are, you think, the most urgent at the federal level right now?
Well, the issue is affordability and healthcare, no matter who you are. My district is urban, suburban, and rural, and I hear it. People are being squeezed and struggling while the president and his family are just getting richer and richer. Yeah. But I worry about the trans community in particular because of the different pieces of legislation, that different states and federally that people are trying to pass. I worry, after what happened with Roe v. Wade, what will happen with marriage equality. That's why we have got to at least win the House of Representatives. That we think we're going to win that one, going into November. Very, 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 very important. But LGBTQ community faces what I face as a straight Black woman as far as affordability, health care, homelessness, housing, how vets are treated, especially in that community.
But sticking with the trans community for a second, we were just talking about how the SAVE Act, which Ding Dong says that he will, I'm not going to sign anything until this comes across my desk. And he tacked on 2 anti-trans provisions onto this thing that did not pass the House. How do you square that circle?
Well, because of the Senate, whatever passes the House, they cannot get things passed in the Senate unless Democrats join in, and Democrats did not join. Maybe Fetterman did. We never know.
Wow, that guy.
But that guy. But otherwise, they don't have the votes. That's why he's trying to change the number of votes that you need. But that's ridiculous. It affects the LGBTQ community. It affects women. Women need to, 70 million women will be disenfranchised because if you don't have the same last name, as when you were born. And if you get your birth certificate and if you took your husband's name, then you won't have the same last name. So that will disenfranchise. The idea that you have to get your birth certificate or passport costs money, and everybody, again, affordability can't afford to, just run and get their passport or their birth certificate. And then even if you did that, when you go to vote, you still have to have different registration and not your driver's license. So they are making it so hard because he's trying to steal election, the midterm redistricting, the nationalization of votes, going into Fulton County and looking at, voter who's registering, and not only Fulton County, Georgia, but other places also. We have got to be vigilant, and, people have got to speak up if they see, feel, hear, witness any voter suppression.
Yes, Congresswoman, absolutely. You said you have served in Congress for 13 years.
13 years next month.
I know, and thank you for all of your service, especially all of your service you've done for folks here in Illinois. You've been so strong with anti-guns and all other different kinds of legislation. How would you say your experience in the House has prepared you uniquely to take on the role of senator when we go out to the polls on the 17th?
Sure. we said almost 13 years. Of my 13 years, I've only been in a majority 4 of those 13 years.
Wow.
So I know how to work across the aisle.
Yes.
I passed legislation under Barack Obama, Donald Trump, believe it or not, working with my Republican colleagues, and Joe Biden. Most of the things I've passed have been in a bipartisan way. And you can talk about, I'm going to bring the Illinois blueprint. D.C. ain't Illinois. It is not blue. It is not veto-proof houses or anything like that. You have to learn how to work with everyone. I never give up my values. Never, never, never. But where I can work together, my district is urban, suburban, and rural, the biggest Democratic district. I have 4,500 farms. They don't look like me or vote like me, but my farmers like me because if you're mine, as I say, if you're my constituent, you're my constituent, and I try to lift all boats to the best of my, the best of my ability. And I will bring all of that, my relationships and what I've been able to do. So many of my colleagues support me, so many. Some can't say it out loud, but so many support me because they know the work I do. They know I'll be a great partner in the Senate.
Yeah, I can only imagine that your time in Congress can only be an incredible asset. You understand the machinations of how the Senate works and how the whole how the legislature works. It's yes.
And I know people in the Senate already, many people, because many of them were my colleagues, in the House. So, and all that helps. All that helps.
And Congresswoman, apart from your experience in Congress, what sets you apart from your competitors right now?
Good morning. I have worked on every level of government. So I know every level of government. Also, I do the work. I have integrity. I do the work that needs to be done. I walk the talk. I'm not afraid to say, sign on to block the bomb. I wasn't afraid to say when asked, yes, I thought it was genocide. Maybe it didn't start off like that, but that was the result of it. I haven't been afraid to stand up, speak up, or show up. And I'm unbought and unbossed, and I'm transformative, not transactional. I think that's the difference. I mean, I'm not trying to buy the race, which I feel the two strongest opponents are trying to do that. I've spent time doing my job, not raising money.
And we thank you for that, because how refreshing it is today to have somebody saying, you are all of my constituents are my constituents, not blue voters, not red voters. You are all of them. And that is leadership that I think we need, especially during this crazy time.
We could talk about, I'm going to fight, but you got to have accomplishments. You can't just fight. People are sick of us fighting. They want to get things done. They want to see progress. And that's what I'm about, progress and getting things done. And sometimes you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Yes, we need so much. In the richest country in the history of the world, everyone doesn't have health care. We still have too many homeless. We still have too many people hungry. Minimum wage should not be at $7.25. That is ridiculous. We need to invest in our environment. There's so much work to do. And even when we take over Democrat, we can't go back to business as usual. We got to get we just can't rest on our laurels. We have to do immigration reform. We have to do more for the LGBTQ community, for the homeless, for people that don't have health care. It wasn't great when we were in charge. We have to make it better.
Amen to that. What gives you the most hope right now for what's going on in American politics?
I think that, when Kamala and Trump ran and we were saying, we got to save our democracy, I don't think that people quite understood what we were talking about. We weren't as clear maybe, or, you have to break it down. And I think that now, people understand. And when you look at, the No King's Day protests and the amount of people involved, that's what gives me hope. Young people involved, that's what gives me hope. And also, all the special elections we won, the Democrats have won mostly all of them. We kicked butt November 25 election. I mean, we won in places, Mississippi, Georgia, places we Texas, don't win in. So, that has jumping up and down. Prop 50 passed in California, hallelujah. But we can't let our foot off the gas. We can never let your foot off the gas,
Well, and you haven't been letting your foot off the gas for the last
No.
13 years when you have been serving everybody in Congress. And you, again, having somebody who understands how Congress works and has acting real relationships in there, I think it only be an asset to what you are going to offer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know right now we are in crunch time. I know as we're getting ready to head to the polls on the 17th. Do you have any upcoming events? I believe you're in Lakeview today.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the South Side now with the South Side Irish stuff, and then I'm going to the North Side, and tomorrow I'll be at a bunch of polling places,
All right.
and Tuesday also.
Stay safe with all that bunch of Irish stuff.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I'm a Kelly.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
that's
a Kelly.
true.
That's true. Yes, you're part of the group.
People.
Your people.
All righty.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you guys so
Congresswoman
much.
Robin Kelly, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining
Okay.
us today. Best of luck. And for more information,
Thank you.
Take care.
head to robinforsenate.com if you want to find out more information about her platform. Congresswoman Robin Kelly, thank you so much for taking time out today.